ونصلي ونسلم على رسوله الكريم أما بعد فقال الله تبارك وتعالى في كتابه الكريم إذ هم طائفتان منكم أن تفشلا والله وليهما وعلى الله فليتوكل المؤمنون صدق الله العظيم وصدق رسوله النبي الأمين المختار الكريم ونحن على ذلك لمن الشاهدين والشاكرين والحمد لله رب العالمين. इंतहाई मोहतरम और मुकर्रम मेरे बुज़ुर्गों, नौजवान साथियों, इज़्ज़त मआब मेरी माओ और बहनों, आइए अपने मामूल के मुताबिक आक़ाए नामदार हम सब के ताजदार हुज़ूर ख़ातमुल मुरसलीन रहमतुल लिल आलमीन सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम की बारगाह में मिलकर दुरूद पाक का हदिया पेश करें और पढ़ें। अल्लाहुम्मा सल्लि अला सय्यिदिना व शफ़ीइना व मौलाना मुहम्मदिन व आलिहि व सहबिहि व बारिक व सल्लिम सलातन व सलामन अलैका या रसूलल्लाह सल्लल्लाहु तआला अलैहि वसल्लम। It is Friday, and Friday is one of the days which is dedicated to send salawat upon Rasulullah sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wasallam without any demand, without any speaker asking you. Once again, if we can recite Durood Pak with utmost love, affection, loudly in the court of Rasul Kareem sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wasallam, everyone together, Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina wa Mawlana Muhammadin ma'adin al-judi wal karam wa alihi wa sahbihi wa barik wa sallim salatan wa salaman alayka ya Rasulullah sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam. Last Friday we were listening to the fadail and the virtues of one of the great Sahabi Rasul, a great personality of Islam, someone who served to the deen of Islam with his courage, with his weapons, with his words, and with his protection to Rasulullah sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wasallam. That personality is none other than Sayyidina Ameer Hamzah Sayyidul Shuhada, who is uncle of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, as well as he is brother in terms of they both drank from the same woman. They are brothers too. We learned that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He gave courage to Islam, He gave strength to Islam by personalities like Sayyidina Ameer Hamzah and Sayyidina Umar ibn Khattab radiyallahu ta'ala anhu accepting Islam. We also learnt in Badr how Sayyidina Ameer Hamzah, he fought and very bravely he served to the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the fields of battle. Then the time of Uhud comes. A little bit of background of Uhud, as this battle happened in the month of Shawwal, and today is 27 or 28th of Shawwal. So the month of Shawwal is about to end. The battle of Uhud happened in the month of Shawwal, and very briefly, in few words, if we say that the battle of Uhud was as a result of the defeat that Kuffar of Makkah faced in the first battle, Battle of Badr. Now, Kuffar Makkah, there were many big people who were killed, likes of Abu Jahl, likes of Utbah, Shayba. They were the leaders of Kuffar, and they were killed by handful of Muslims. And for that reason, the entire Makkah and the Kuffar of Makkah, they were waiting and preparing to take the revenge of those who were killed by Muslims. Among these people, we have someone like Hind bint Utbah. Now she later became Muslim, but before that, Abu Sufyan's wife, Hind bint Utbah, her father was killed by Sayyidina Ameer Hamzah radiallahu ta'ala in the battle of Badr, Utbah. And therefore, she was waiting and she was eager and she was happy to spend as much money and as much wealth and as many resources possible to use to defeat Muslims in the battle of Uhud. And they were preparing for it. Rasul Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he comes to know about this. And Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, as his habit, he gathered ashab. And some books say that Rasul Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he performed Jum'ah Salah. After the Jum'ah Salah, he gathered Muslims and he started to take their mashwara, advice from them. What do you say? We have come to know that kuffar, they are preparing for a very big army and come and attack Muslims. Some Sahaba, they advised those who were older that we should remain in Medina and defend Medina rather than going to attack. We shouldn't leave our city. Whereas Rasul Kareem alayhi salatu wasalam also, according to some narration, was tilting towards that we should remain in Medina and defend our city. Among these people who gave this advice was one munafiq. And if I may say that Sayyidul Munafiqeen, the leader of Munafiqeen, he was Abdullah ibn Ubay. Now he was among those who gave the advice to remain in the city of Medina and defend Madinatul Munawwara. Now Rasul Kareem alayhi salatu wasalam, then among Sahaba there were young people. There were young ashab who had seen the battle of Badr, who had seen the courage of Muslims, and they were the ones who could not attend and participate in the battle of Badr. Now they decided to give the advice to Rasul Kareem alayhi salatu wasalam to not to remain in Medina, go out and fight. They said, Ya Rasulullah, we are enough. We have courage and we can go out and fight against these kuffar and we can perish them. Rasul Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam heard both of them. Prophet went in his house, in his hujra. When he came out, Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was wearing all the armor. He was ready for battle. And then Rasul Kareem alayhi salatu wasallam said that ma yanbaghi li nabiyyin idha labisa al-amata labisa lamatahu an yarji'a hatta yahkum Allahu lahu. That once a prophet puts the armor on, it is impossible that he drops them back until Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala advises to do so. So Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam then took the advice of those young Sahaba and including Sayyidina Ameer Hamzah radiallahu ta'ala anhu to go out and fight. And the battle takes place. But one thing we have to remember, when people, they left from Medina, they were 1,000 with Muslims. On the way, Abdullah ibn Ubay, the munafiq, the leader of Munafiqun, he said to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he announced, I'm not going to fight with you guys. I'm not going to support you, and my followers won't support you because you did not listen to my advice. His advice was to remain in Medina and fight. So he left the Muslim army with his 300 people. So 700 remained. They all reached to Uhud. When they reached to Uhud, Rasul Kareem alayhi salatu wasalam, now very briefly I'm going to mention, because the main point I want to mention is the shahadat of Ameer Hamzah radiallahu ta'ala anhu and some lessons from the shahadat and the practice of Rasulullah sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wasallam. Rasul Kareem alayhi salatu wasalam, he appointed Abdullah ibn Jubair, who was the great archer, and he gave him 50 people, that these are 50 people and you are going to be on Jabal Ainain. There is a small mountain next to Uhud. When we go and visit, Rasul Kareem ﷺ said to Abdullah ibn Jubair radiallahu ta'ala anhu that you will remain with your team up here. And then in different riwayat it says that Rasul Kareem ﷺ advised them that no matter what, whether we are defeated or whether we are victorious, whether we are taken away by the birds, you do not leave your position. You remain in the position. A battle begins. Muslims fought very bravely. At first, it seemed like it's a victory, and it is the war which was won by Muslims. Now people started to gather war booty. Now those 50 people that Rasulullah ﷺ appointed on the mountain, out of 50, 40, they left their position. Because they thought we have won now. Why are we still here? At that time, Hazrat Khalid ibn Walid, then he was a Muslim, and he was leading the army, one of the portion of the Kuffar's army. He comes around the mountain, around the Jabal Ain, and he attacks Muslims. And Muslims were attacked from the back by Hazrat Khalid ibn Walid, and from the front by Ikramah ibn Abu Jahl, who was a Muslim then. And that's how Muslims, they faced enormous difficulty in the battle of Uhud. Including Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he was injured. The blessed tooth of Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and the lip of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, it was bleeding. This has never happened before in any battle. But again, Muslims fought bravely. At the end, Sayyidina Ameer Hamzah radiallahu ta'ala anhu was martyred by a person called Whashi ibn Harb. Now I mentioned last Friday that there are two narrations. That this Whashi, who was a slave, he was approached by Jubair ibn Mut'im because his uncle was killed by Sayyidina Hamzah radiallahu ta'ala anhu in the battle of Badr, and Hind bint Utbah, whose father Utbah was killed by Sayyidina Ameer Hamzah radiallahu ta'ala anhu in the battle of Badr. Now they approached Whashi and said that if you kill him, you will be freed, as well as we'll give you some gifts. Now Whashi, he himself mentioned, it's been mentioned in the books of Tariq. Historians say that Whashi had only one aim and one goal. His goal was to find Sayyidina Ameer Hamzah, wait until the moment comes when he can get him. And he waited for that moment. Hamzah radiallahu ta'ala who was martyred by Whashi. And then he says that I killed him and that's it. I was on the side, I did not fight. Because my goal was not to fight against Muslim, my goal was to earn my freedom, which I did. At the end of battle, some very troubling thing took place, which is called Muthla. What is Muthla? The first thing is, Hind had taken an oath and promised that if Hamzah is killed, then I will chew his liver. I'm going to chew his liver. Now what they did, at the end of the battle, especially with the body of Sayyidina Ameer Hamzah radiallahu ta'ala anhu, they cut the ears, they cut the nose, and they cut certain limbs. And she took open, according to some narration, it was Whashi who took open, who opened the belly of Sayyidina Ameer Hamzah to take out the liver. And she tried to chew and eat the liver of Sayyidina Ameer Hamzah radiallahu ta'ala. So one thing we understand from here, that carrying grudge and revenge, this feeling of, if he did something to me, I will not leave him. I have to take the revenge. It will make you do things which you cannot even imagine. It will make you do things which later you would regret. Now Hind, she tried to take the liver of Sayyidina Ameer Hamzah down. The historian says that she couldn't eat it. She couldn't take it down, so she spat it out. Now later, when the battle was over, Abu Sufyan announced that all the kuffar are going back to Makkah. Rasul Kareem sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wasallam, he came to look at the ashab. And Sahaba say that we have not seen Rasul Pak ﷺ as distraught when he saw the body of Sayyidina Ameer Hamzah radiallahu ta'ala. Prophet looked at it and he was extremely upset because he loved Hazrat Ameer Hamzah radiallahu ta'ala dearly. So Ameer Hamzah radiallahu ta'ala, he loved Rasul Kareem ﷺ dearly. Prophet ﷺ was extremely upset. And Sahaba say that even after Hind accepted Islam, Rasul Pak ﷺ advised her not to come in front of Prophet ﷺ often, because it would remind, not that Prophet disliked her. Prophet ﷺ, if he can forget a kafir and mushrik, how can he not forget somebody who accepted Islam? How can Rasulullah ﷺ and some people who say that because Prophet disliked her, ma'azallah, look at the hadith of Rasul Kareem ﷺ, and this is Rawafid as well, who talk ill about those who accepted Islam later on, be it Sayyidina Ameer, Sayyidina Abu Sufyan radiallahu ta'ala or Hind. They accepted Islam. What does Islam say about it then? Allahu Akbar. Islam, Rasul Kareem ﷺ, he stated, Al-Islamu yahdimu ma kana qablahu. Anything which was before Islam, Islam completely wipes it. Everything that they did, be it doing musla and cutting the certain parts of the body of Sayyidina Ameer Hamzah, or chewing the liver, it was in the Jahiliyyah. It was at the time when they did not understand. Once they accepted Islam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has forgiven them. Now look at Whashi. Whashi, he killed Sayyidina Ameer Hamzah radiallahu ta'ala. But later he also accepted Islam. And then in the time of Sayyidina Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu ta'ala, just after Rasul Pak ﷺ, he departed from this dunya, there was a battle that took place. Battle of Yamama, in which Whashi, he attended the battle as a Muslim. He accepted Islam, attended. Now this battle was against a person called Musaylima bin Kadhab. Musaylima was someone who announced about being a prophet in the time of Rasulullah ﷺ towards the end. Just before Rasul Pak ﷺ departed from this dunya, Sayyidina Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu ta'ala anhu could not remain silent. He sent his army, and the one who killed Musaylima bin Kadhab was Whashi. Who killed Musaylima? It was Whashi. And then Whashi said that, "Oh Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, at the time when I was kafir, when I was non-believer, I killed the best person of the time, which was Hamzah. And today when I have understood and accepted Islam, I have killed the worst mankind on the earth right now, Musaylima. Make this killing kafara for the one that I did when I was non-Muslim." You could imagine that the transformation Allah gave them. Rasul Pak ﷺ accepted it. Islam accepts it. So today any Rafidi, any Shia, they have no right to talk ill about anyone who accepted Islam and became and attained the Sahabiyyat in the time of Rasul Pak ﷺ. This is our Aqidah. Now, Shuhada in itself, being a Shaheed is a great thing. What was the way of Rasul Pak ﷺ? Is it permissible to visit the shrines of Shuhada? Is it permissible if I make the intention to go and visit the shrine of Sayyidina Ameer Hamzah radiallahu ta'ala? Many people find it shirk, many people find it bid'ah. Let's look at the practice of Prophet alayhi salatu wassalam. A riwayat that's been narrated, and you'll find various narrations in the same meaning. This is narrated by Hakim in his Mustadrak. And the narrator is Sayyidina Abdullah ibn Abi Farwa radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. He says, "Anna Nabiya sallallahu alayhi wa sallam zara qubur al-shuhada'i bi Uhud." Rasul Pak alayhi salatu wasalam, he visited the qubur, the graves of shuhada in Uhud, including the qabr of Sayyidina Ameer Hamzah radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. And then he made the dua. Now today before it was even more difficult, but Today if you go to Jannatul Baqi and you make dua there, they will not let you raise your hands. Like, this is shirk. You can't raise your hand in front of a grave, even though you're making dua for the deceased who is in the grave. This is the extremism that we talk about. And we class this kind of imposing their teachings on the Muslims from around the world, we class it extremism. Islam is not about extremism. They'll tell you, you can't do that. Shirk. Urdu mein bhi khade hote hain, bolte rehte hain. Abhi to bhaga diya unko. Lekin ye hota tha. Huzur, what did Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam do? Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam would visit the graves of shuhada and then he would make dua. Allahumma faqal. Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam would say, Allahumma inna abdaka wa nabiyyaka yashhadu anna ha'ula'i shuhada. O Allah, indeed your Nabi and your servant gives and bears the witness, gives this testimony that these are the shuhada. وَإِنَّهُ مَنْ زَارَهُمْ وَسَلَّمَ عَلَيْهِمْ إِلَى يَوْمِ الْقِيَامَةِ وَرُدُّوا عَلَيْهِ. Anyone who visits them, وَسَلَّمَ عَلَيْهِمْ, and sends salam upon them. Because generally when you go to Qabristan, you make salam. Assalamu alaikum ya ahl al-qubur. If they are not listening, why are you making salam? If somebody is dead, you don't go to janazah and say assalamu alaikum. You go to someone's house and say assalamu alaikum. You meet a brother and say assalamu alaikum. Prophet taught us when you visit Qabristan, say assalamu alaikum. If any normal Muslim can hear your salam, Prophet said when somebody says assalamu alaikum, send salam upon the shuhada of Uhud until the day of Qiyamah. Not only in the time of Prophet ﷺ said, Ruddu Ali, these shuhada of Uhud, they send salam back to them. The shuhada of Uhud, they reply to your salam. We can't hear it because they are in alam-e-barzakh and we are in alam-e-dunya. But they do listen to our salam as our deceased who are sleeping in their graves, resting in their graves. They also listen to our salam when we go to Qabristan and say, Assalamu alaikum. Ibn Abi Shayba narrates in his book that أن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم كان يأتي على قبور الشهداء بأحد على رأس كل حول. As Ahlul Sunnah, we celebrate Urs, and I will conclude on this final point. Urs is something, the anniversary of someone who was close to Allah, a wali Allah, or a sahabi, or anybody who was among the pious people of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The day they die, the anniversary is called Urs. And Ahlul Sunnah, remember, send the reward and Isali Sawab, do Isali Sawab for them. Rasul Kareem alayhi salatu wasalam used to do Urs, remembering the anniversary of the death and martyrdom of Sayyidina Ameer Hamzah radiyallahu ta'ala. Ibn Abi Shayba says, أن النبي كان يأتي على قبور الشهداء. Not only sitting in the Masjid Nabawi, he would remember them. Prophet ﷺ indeed used to come to qubur of the shuhada of Uhud, the graves of the martyrs of Uhud, when the Sahabi, the narrator says, ala rasi kulli hawl. Once every year, Rasulullah ﷺ used to visit the graves of shuhada of Uhud to mark the day when they passed away, to remember them and to remind the ummah that it is not shirk when you visit the grave of any martyr, when you visit the grave of any saint of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This was the practice of Rasulullah sallallahu ta'ala. So Sayyidina Ameer Hamzah radiyallahu ta'ala, who indeed was very close to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. His shahada brought enormous grief to Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but Prophet ﷺ had great patience and sabr. He lived through passing away of his wife, Sayyidah Khadija, his uncle, Janab Abu Talib, his another uncle, Sayyidina Ameer Hamzah radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, but Allah had given great sabr to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So when we go through any grief, when we go through any difficulty, when we go through any calamities, we should also follow this path of Rasul Pak and the practice of Rasulullah sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam. Allah ta'ala hum tamam ko amal ki tawfiq ata farmaye. Assalamu alaikum.